There was a man named Kayode, a man who lived a life of routine and comfort in the bustling city of Lagos, Nigeria. He had everything one could ever ask for: money, a big house, a successful business, and a family who loved him. But something was missing. Despite his outward success, Kayode was deeply unhappy. Each day he woke up early, put on his suit, and went to work, returning home in the evening to do it all over again. He had all the material wealth that society celebrated, but internally he felt empty. He had become so consumed with external appearances, his business deals, his social status, and his lavish lifestyle, that he had forgotten to look inward. One evening, after a long day of work, Kayode stood in front of his bathroom mirror, tired and weary, staring at his reflection. He had always seen the reflection of a successful businessman, a well-groomed man with a sharp appearance. But today, something felt different. For the first time in years, he felt like he was truly looking at himself. Not the man he had become for others, but the man who had been lost somewhere inside. "Who are you?" Kayode whispered to the mirror. The question felt foreign to him, almost as if he had never really asked himself that before. The man staring back at him was not the man he thought he was. He had spent so many years chasing the approval of others, filling his life with material things, trying to be the best in the eyes of society, but he had ignored the most important question. Who am I really? The mirror didn't answer, of course, but in that moment, Kayode realized how disconnected he had become from his own soul. The face staring back at him seemed distant, as if it was someone he barely knew. The face of a man who had built a life for others, but not for himself. He had spent so much time building a career, trying to impress people, that he had forgotten to build a life of meaning for himself. In the days that followed, Kayode couldn't stop thinking about the man in the mirror. The question haunted him. Who are you? He decided to take a step back from his life and reevaluate everything. He stopped attending endless meetings, ignored the calls from colleagues, and distanced himself from the constant rush of the world. He began to spend more time with his family, listening to their needs, their hopes, and their dreams. He spent long hours reflecting on his own life, journaling about his true passions, his childhood dreams, and his deepest fears. One morning, Kayode walked into his office with a different mindset. He sat at his desk and looked out the window, realizing that success, at least in the way he had defined it, wasn't what truly mattered. What mattered most were the moments spent with his loved ones, the satisfaction of pursuing something meaningful, and the peace of knowing that he was living his truth. He slowly started to make changes. He began to give back to his community, helping young people in his neighborhood start their own businesses and providing scholarships to students in need. He started to spend more time with his children, listening to their dreams and aspirations, instead of focusing on his own ambitions. He rekindled his relationship with his wife, talking about things that had nothing to do with work, but about their shared life together. Months passed and Kayode felt lighter. He no longer chased after success for the sake of appearances. He had finally found the answer to his question, who are you? He was a man who valued love, honesty, and purpose over wealth and status. He realized that true happiness came not from the accolades or the applause of others, but from being true to oneself. One evening, as Kayode once again stood before the mirror, he smiled. This time, the reflection staring back at him was not a stranger. It was a man who had rediscovered himself, a man who was at peace with who he had become. He had learned that sometimes, in order to move forward, you have to look back into the mirror, into your own soul, and ask the most important question, who are you? And in that moment, Kayode knew who he was, and he was no longer afraid to be him.